Welcome to Home Biz Tax Talk. My name is Lysandra Everett. I am the Home Biz Tax Lady, where I help home business owners win the tax game. Home Biz Tax Talk airs Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish. And when you tune into my show, you're going to hear about topics that are important to the home business community. Okay, the order of the day is amendments. Over the last week, I've gotten lots of questions about amendments. So I want to, give you some basic things that you need to know about amendments. This is not a video about how to file amendments. I've done one of those videos already, and I'm not sure if it's doing more harm than good because I get people that are just, some people just get a little testy when it comes to these amendments. Oh, okay. So why file an amendment? What is an amendment used for? An amendment is used to correct some sort of error on your return, whether you left something off or you put something on there that shouldn't have been on there, whatever. An amendment is used to fix a mistake on the return. Now, for amendments, those are paper filed. They're paper filed because you only get one e-file per social security number. This is why when you go and file, and let's say there has been some, like if you had identity theft and the IRS comes back and says, well, there's already been a return filed with this social security number. Or if you have an issue with dependents where somebody has claimed a dependent and you go try to claim that dependent and then it gets kicked back. That's because there's only one e-file allowed per social security number. So when you prepare an amendment, that has to be paper filed. With that in mind, an amendment can take 8 to 12 weeks to process. Okay, so from the time you mail it, you got to mail the thing. It's got to take a couple days to get there. And then once it's received, that's when the clock starts ticking. Okay, and so it does. It takes 8 to 12 weeks for it to get processed because you're talking about human intervention. Okay, that's required with an amendment. So it's not like you mail it and then 2 weeks later you're going to get something back. No, that's just not how it works. Anytime you mail anything into the IRS, into the government, it's going to take 8 to 12 weeks for it to process. And that does not include government shutdowns or anything like that. So you just pray that your stuff doesn't get caught up in some foolishness, right? So it's important that when you do send an amendment that you make copies of everything that you send. Do not send original paperwork with an amendment. Listen, don't send any original paperwork, period, to the IRS. You want to make copies, keep the original for yourself. That's a total aside, but hey, you got to know. So you make copies of everything that you send, and you also want to send it with tracking to make sure it's delivered. But just know that it does take that long to process. Now we get into like the nitty gritty stuff as to who should actually prepare the amendment. Okay. So when it comes down to an amendment, the person that prepared the return originally is the best person to prepare the amendment because they have the original information there. And people get upset when you tell them like, this is really what should happen because they're the people that have the information to begin with. But a lot of times we deal with tax season hustlers and you can't find those people. So then you take it to someone else. And then that leads me to the next point, which is who should pay to have amendments done. Because people think that, okay, I can't find my tax person, so I'm bringing this to you and you should prepare this amendment. But you're going to have to pay someone else to prepare that amendment because when you're preparing an amendment, if you didn't prepare the original return, you have to go back and recreate the return as it is in order to fix it. So this is why, when you go to another tax person to prepare that amendment, that it's going to cost you. Now, in the event that you do have that tax person available that can prepare it, the question is who made the mistake, right? Did you, the taxpayer, make the mistake, or did the tax professional make the mistake? If the tax professional made the mistake, for me, the tax professional should fix it for free. right? There shouldn't be anything additional. But if you, the taxpayer, left something off or need to fix something, then that's something that you would have to pay for. So it's not that you feel like you've already paid to have your return prepared, that you shouldn't have to pay for it again. That's just not how it works. So that's why you really want to go to the person that originally prepared the return, because they're not going to have to redo it all over again. They're just going to have to go and tweak the information. And then as far as who has to pay for it is, who made the mistake, right? And, and that leads me to my last point, which is number 5, is, when you amend taxes, there's either going to be consequences or there's going to be rewards. Okay. And that's the hard part about amendments, is that, if you're fixing an error that has consequences, it's going to cost, and that just stinks, but that's the way it is. And a lot of times we get taxpayers that are upset because taxes are already emotional, okay? Nobody likes to do taxes. Nobody likes tax time. Taxpayers are already on edge. Tax professionals, we're on edge because we're trying to get it done. And, and sometimes during the heat of all of that, mistakes do happen. Okay, that's the way it is. But the consequences or the rewards go to the taxpayer. And a lot of taxpayers get upset about that, but that's really the way it is. So if a mistake was made, that you have to pay back a refund. Okay, no, the tax professional is not going to pay that because they didn't receive the refund to begin with, even if it was their mistake. Now, you may get upset as a taxpayer and say, I'm never going to that person again, which totally get it. But you know what? At the end of the day, because you got the money, you have to pay that back. Because at the same time, if an error is discovered that puts more money in your pocket, the tax professional isn't going to get that money. You're going to get that money, right? So, so it's a double-edged sword. And the hard part about tax mistakes is a lot of times it doesn't come to light until a year later. So it's like you got to go back and redo that stuff all over again during an already emotional time. So it's just hard, right? It's hard. It's hard for tax professionals to deliver the news. It's hard for taxpayers to receive the news, when it's on the consequence end. It's really hard all the way around. But now I also want to talk about the difference between mistakes and fraud. Okay. So like I said, no tax professional is perfect. No taxpayer is perfect. There's going to be somebody that makes mistakes. Okay. But the mistakes have to be fixed. Now, the difference between mistakes and fraud is mistake is, oh my gosh, I left off this little W-2 over here. I need to fix it. Okay, great. Fraud is you're adding a dependent that is not yours. An error is a transposed number where you might have 34,000 and you should have 43,000. That is a mistake. Fraud is that you're claiming education credits and you didn't go to school. So you need to understand that there is a difference between mistakes and fraud. Okay. And even in the cases of fraud, it is still the taxpayer that bears the brunt of that, because you're the one that you may have gotten a refund that you really were not entitled to. Or, somebody claimed some false business expenses in order to lower your tax liability. The taxpayer is still the one that has to bear the financial consequences of that. So that's what I'm saying. When it comes down to your tax returns, guys, don't let something go on your tax return that doesn't go there. Okay. I have heard the horror stories where there was a tax professional that sold one of their clients' children's social security numbers to someone else because they already had 3 dependents or something like that, sold that other, social security number and put it on someone else's tax return. Like that's fraud. It's fraud on the account of the tax professional. It's also fraud on the account of that other taxpayer because you know this is not your dependent, right? So, so just you just don't go down the fraudulent route because that causes you more drama than the mistake, right? Again, mistakes do happen, but tax professionals who make mistakes, they're going to fix those mistakes. And you as a taxpayer, you have to make a decision as to whether or not you'll go back to that tax professional or you go to someone else. But at the end of the day, you, the taxpayer, are ultimately responsible for the financial consequences of that, whether you are getting more, additional money back or you have to pay some money back or pay more in taxes. It's ugly. It's not fun. It's never fun to deliver that kind of news. It's definitely not fun to receive that kind of news. But at the end of the day, you want it done right. And you want people to take responsibility for whatever the mistake is that occurred. Okay. So and something else that just popped into my head is that, I talked about, I have a video on how to prepare an amendment, right? And I have so many people that say, okay, well, I need to fix this. Can I just do X? And the truth is that you can change one thing on your return and it will change your entire return. And so this is why I often tell you, if you don't know what you're doing, what's going to change, what credits and all of that stuff, you need to hire help. Okay, if you prepared your tax return yourself and then you found out, oh, I need to fix something. If you don't understand how to fix it, you need to hire someone to help you. Nobody can really help you sight unseen. Nobody can really say, because they don't know what else is on your return. They don't know what kind of credits you've claimed. They don't know any type of deductions you have. They don't know that stuff. And so there are, like financial limitations to certain credits and whatnot. And so if we don't see those things on your tax return, we can't really answer how it's going to change. So, even though, like I said, I have this video, it gives the basics of how to prepare an amendment. You have to understand that when you change one number, it can change your entire tax return. And nobody can really tell you, what's going to happen based on, we can't look in the magic 8-ball. Right? So this is why I tell you, if you really don't know what you're doing, yes, you're going to have to hire someone to help you to have it done correctly. Because if you prepare the amendment incorrectly, it's already going to take 8 to 12 weeks for it to process. If you prepare the amendment incorrectly, that 8 to 12 weeks is going to get stretched out even further. So this is why I recommend that if you have an amendment to prepare and you don't know what to do, you go hire somebody to do it right. Okay. So that's the thing about amendments, you guys. They're never fun and they take forever to fix. And it's just ugly. I mean, I even had a client who had an issue with injured spouse and, it was already going to take 8 to 12 weeks to process. Then the government shut down. Then the person that was dealing with it was like at the bottom of their pile. So it was just crazy. So this is why you want to try and get it right on the first go around. But if you have to amend, you want to amend it properly. Okay. So I hope that helps you out when it comes to amendments. Be okay with hiring somebody to fix it. All right. So thank you guys so much for tuning into Home Biz Tax Talk. Again, we air Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish, and you can come right here to get your questions answered about your home business taxes. All right. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.